Free your staff to focus on high-impact work while offering round-the-clock assistance to every student. With Element 451, you can deploy AI agents that reason, act, and provide support at scale, solving problems, analyzing data, and crafting personalized outreach instantly. These AI agents expand your team's abilities without replacing the human touch, allowing staff to dedicate their time to what matters most. Unlock the future of workforce enablement at element451.com.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to What We're Learning About Leadership and Ourselves, a pulse check mini-series where we explore the lessons, challenges, and surprises of leadership in higher ed as young professionals.
We're your hosts, Shelby Moquin and Aaron Fields, the marketing and content experts behind Enrollify. We're exploring what it really takes to grow as leaders while navigating the twists and turns of our careers.
And whether you're a seasoned leader, just starting out, or even somewhere in between, join us for honest conversations, personal insights, and even a little bit of humor along the way. And together we'll explore how to embrace feedback, even the tough kind, lead without a title, and build the confidence to own your wins.
Because leadership isn't just about leading others, it's also about learning who you are. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to part 3 of our Pulse Check series. We're so excited to be here today. Aaron, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Living the dream. Living the dream. How about you, Shelby?
Pulse Check. Yeah, doing great, amazing. Still a little cold. It's winter, winter blues. That's fine.
Spring is coming though. So
Yeah. So we're close. Positive mindset. Continuing with the tradition of starting off with a fun question for our last one, because I can't believe it's the last one. This has literally flown by so fast. My last question for you is, what was your favorite episode from the Enrollify Network in the 2024 year?
Oh man, we published so many. This is really hard to narrow it down to one. And maybe it's not like one, but this is like my most memorable one that I absolutely loved. For anyone out there that does not listen to Talking Tactics, Day is a phenomenal host. She is so creative with the topics and the content of her show. So if you do not listen to Talking Tactics, you need to run to listen to Talking Tactics after this episode. Day did an episode, I think it was back in November or October, and it was titled Getting More Donors by Naming Squirrels on Giving Day. And as someone who was on a college campus for 4 years and knows like the hype around campus squirrels, this episode was absolutely phenomenal. It's with Katie Allgood and Brooke Preston from Ohio University, and they just really talk about hearing a campaign that essentially donors name campus squirrels on Giving Day. And they took this idea and kind of formulated it from an initial idea from Ole Miss. And this episode it's just gold. So if you haven't listened to it, we'll put the episode link in the show notes. It's phenomenal. They had like an increase in over like 750 donors because of this squirrel campaign. So it's very interesting. If you are a campus squirrel enthusiast like myself, go listen to it.
I was going to say, when I was at Drake for a semester, there was a dedicated Instagram account to these squirrels, and it would continuously post pictures of them. They're a thing. And then where I live now, we have black squirrels. Have you ever seen those?
Oh, yeah. Okay,
we've got black ones. Apparently, they're not, like, popular in some, like, certain places in the country, but no, we have black ones. And then there's a couple, like, random gray ones in there, too. Anyways, for those squirrel enthusiasts, hope you enjoyed our little plug there. We love squirrels. But for me, I think my favorite episode from the network last year was a Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager episode with Jenny Lee Fowler. Jenny Lee Fowler, also amazing host. She's so bubbly and she's so personable. But this episode was with Danny Dean, and it's titled Centralizing Chaos, the Ohio State's journey to a unified social media presence. And I listened to this episode because I love social media. I'm part of Gen Z, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. They are my jam. I love consuming them. I love using them. I also love using them as a marketer. So it was really great to see this story unfold about how she had all these trials and triumphs and tactics, and she was navigating one of the largest university social media ecosystems. Like we've all heard of the Ohio State, like we know who they are. So like I can't even imagine like managing that. So it was just a very, very, very cool story. And again, we'll put it in the show notes. So if you have time, I highly recommend going and listening to that episode. But anyways, we're gonna jump in to our content today. So today we're talking about the confidence equation, building resilience and owning your wins. And so, Erin, I have a very great first question for you. And so this one is, can you share a moment when you felt like you weren't ready for a leadership role, but decided to step up anyway, and how did it turn out?
Did it turn out? I don't know. I'm just kidding. This takes me back to when I applied for my first full-time job in higher ed. I was a marketing and a communications GA, graduate assistant in our graduate admissions office at West Virginia University. And that role came up as a program coordinator position in our office that managed not only marketing but also graduate student recruitment. And so, as you can imagine, from a GA to that type of position, that's kind of a big jump. So this was during COVID, and the reason that this job came up was because, my boss at the time was in this position. She had gotten another position at a different university, agency, whatever. But I just had like this gut feeling to go for it. I loved the work. I've always loved higher ed. I've loved student recruitment and marketing, obviously. And I figured, worst case, if I apply and I don't get it, I would just learn a ton from the process and still be a GA. I did end up getting the job after, a very extensive interview process. I will admit there was a lot of imposter syndrome that came with this job at first. I was, suddenly in charge of things like strategy and recruitment plans. I felt the pressure to have to prove myself. At this point, I have not even graduated with my master's degree yet. I'm still in grad school at this point. I'm only about halfway through my degree. But what I learned quickly is that when you lead like that, or you're thrown in a position like that, you don't have to have all the answers to lead. You just have to be willing to learn. I leaned on relationships that I had already built on as a graduate assistant. I asked a million questions. I stayed focused on making progress, and it wasn't perfect, but I did find my footing. And, that experience really taught me that stepping into a leadership role, even when you don't feel ready, is all about trusting yourself to figure it out along the way. And, what's funny is that I say, like, I think, are we ever really ready? Like, ready is such a moving target in higher ed and in your career. There is rarely a clear moment where you're just like, yep, I've got this. Let's go 110,000%. I think like one of the best things about higher education as an industry is that we are all continuously learning from each other. If you don't know how to handle something, there is such an amazing community out there that can help you walk through it. You've got people who will always be in your corner in higher ed if you just take the initiative to invest in the community. Go to conferences, join groups, be active on social media, just do it. Like, that kind of growth you can't get always from, a textbook or from a degree. Building those connections really goes a long way in building your career.
This question for me is a little bit different because this is my first job straight out of college. I even started working at Enrollify literally before I graduated. And so, like you said, there is really no such thing as ready. I kind of said yes, and I was like, okay, I kind of hope I'm ready. I mean, Mallory thinks I'm ready. I really hope I think I'm ready. And so it was very much of, okay, I have to step back, and I have to, because all these terms were being thrown at me all at once, because I never thought I would be in higher ed. I kind of just landed here, and I feel like that is maybe true for some listeners. Like, you kind of just found yourself in higher ed and you're like, oh, I like it here. I think I'm going to stick around. Like, it's super fun. It's great. It's fast moving and high energy. But all of these terms were being thrown at me: enrollment funnel, ROIs. And I was like, I don't know what any of this means. I don't know what any of this means. So I remember there was a day where I literally sat down. It was like a Saturday morning, and I opened up my computer and I was just typing. I was like Googling all of these things. What is the enrollment funnel? What are ROIs? Like, how can I go about learning all of these things so I seem, one, more prepared to better fit in my role, basically. And then another little tidbit for this question is just I have a project that I've been working on, and when I first got assigned it, I was a little nervous and I was very giddy too, but this was the first project that truly made me feel like I had more of a leadership role at Enrollify, and that is for the guest sourcing initiative, which if you don't know, you can actually apply to be a guest on the network now. So the link is somewhere in the comment or in the show notes. Yeah, go find it. Please fill it out. We'd love to have you. And I was pretty excited when I got this, and I was really giddy. Mallory probably remembers the meeting, and this project was so fun, like just to see it come to life and see it be beneficial for our creators. And this was like, it was like my little baby. It may not be like super important or like not a whole campaign or anything, but it's just my little thing that I got to do. And of course, like you and Mallory proofed it, but it was just my little thing, and I got to do it, and I got to take the initiative, and I got to lead with it. So yeah, and normally like I'm all about following clear directions and like tackling assignments with like strict outlines, but this project was different because it was something that I could call my own, and it was so refreshing, and being able to take the lead and watch it grow has just been so cool and such a rewarding experience. So that's my little tidbit for that, since I'm just a recent grad.
Hey, maybe it's not a full-fledged campaign, but it is a very integral part of the network, and I'm really proud of you for taking the initiative to do that project, because now we have a whole like guest database that we have, and people are active in the community, and they're saying like this gives them an opportunity to be like, this is who we want to hear on the pod, or like stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So don't underestimate the win. It was a fantastic win, Shelby.
Yeah. Go fill it out, friends. You got to go fill it out. We want to hear you. Okay. Anyways, I've got another great question for you, Erin. So the next one is, how do you handle the voice of imposter syndrome when it shows up? And do you have a go-to strategy or mantra to keep you like grounded?
This is a really good question to ask me. If you haven't heard my Lessons in Leadership episode from December, go listen to that, because I talk about this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the same thing here, because, not to toot my own horn, but I think what I said was pretty solid.
It was very good.
One of the biggest shifts for me when thinking about imposter syndrome, and when you've been someone who has been thrown into leadership roles, you're going to feel this. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. When I made the jump from GA to my first job, you feel that imposter syndrome. I think anytime you jump from, any point in your career, a different employer, anything like that, I don't want to say you're starting over, but like in a sense, like you have to prove yourself again. You have to show what you can do. At the same time, you're being trusted with the role, so you want to prove that you can be trusted. And I think one of the biggest shifts for me with imposter syndrome is realizing that imposter syndrome isn't based on facts. It's like this internal narrative that a person has often created without realizing it, that's really shaped by fear and doubt. And when I've caught myself going down that rabbit hole, I've learned to pause and ask myself what is actually being expected here. Because if I wouldn't hold myself to some kind of, or if I wouldn't hold someone else to some kind of impossible standard, then it's not fair for me to do that same thing to myself. It's kind of like that whole mantra where it's like, okay, be kind to yourself because it's important. I mean, like that kind of stuff, it really does matter, because day in and day out, if you have these high unrealistic expectations for yourself, it's gonna weigh on you. And it's not just about recognizing imposter syndrome. That's really only the first step. I think the next challenge is realizing what to do next with that. And for me, it's challenging and recognizing when that voice shows up, and I have to stop and remind myself what's true. And with that, what I started doing is really celebrating all of my wins. Like small ones, big ones, ones that nobody sees, ones that everyone sees. You have to find the opportunities to see the silver linings every single day in what you're doing. I used to brush off my small wins or my private wins like they didn't matter. You have to, higher ed is very marketing is very fast moving. So a lot of times you're thinking about already, you haven't even finished a campaign and you're thinking about what's next. What's next on my plate? What am I doing? How am I meeting this goal? But I've learned that stopping and celebrating every single one of those wins matters. Stopping to say that you did a great job, even to yourself, is really important. And imposter syndrome is tough, but the truth is that no one else can silence that self-doubt for you. And I will also, I should have said something where I was like, oh, I die on a hill in the first episode, but this is another hill I die on. You have to be your biggest advocate. If you are not, nobody else is doing it for you. I will get on this soapbox all day long because I've been in the trenches of imposter syndrome. It sucks. It's hard to get out of there. It honestly is kind of equivalent to burnout in a way because you just keep hitting yourself with stuff that isn't true, that's not right. Like, you've got to really dig yourself out of there. And so at some point you've got to like buckle your shoes, put your pants on, like you've got to be your biggest advocate. And that's something that like I wish I would have learned from the very beginning of my career, because I do feel like, in a sense, because I let that imposter syndrome come out at the beginning of my career, that it is something that I really struggle with in my career day in and day out.
Don't just talk about AI, build it. Yes, you. Transform your institution with the next evolution of AI. Agents that don't just assist, they act. Learn from top experts and get actionable insights at the AI Engage Summit on February 25th through 26th. Virtual and free, this event is your ticket to an AI-powered future. Register now at enrollify.org/engage.
Luckily, I haven't had to deal with like imposter syndrome like a whole ton, but I think for me, like you touched on it a little bit, is like those unrealistic expectations of like, I want to be Superwoman. I want to be able to do all of my work during this day and then come and do more and tackle all of these projects. And like, yes, I want to be able to do all of this. But then like, sometimes you need to step back and like remind yourself you're human. Like, you need to have a little bit of a breather, and like, we can only take on so much at once. And I think that like taking on too much can truly like it can help fuel a little bit of imposter syndrome. So again, like, I've dealt with the hard expectations, but it's a whole beast. Like you said, it's probably even worse than burnout, and that's not fun either.
And that's a really good point. Like, with imposter syndrome, like, you are holding yourself to such high expectations that probably nobody else is holding you to. Like, they're made up in your head. Like, you just think you're convincing yourself in your mind that you have to be able to like hit this unrealistic benchmark. And you have to be able to recognize that those expectations that you are setting for yourself are not realistic. And that's not to undermine like saying like, okay, you can still be ambitious, you can still say I'm going to get to this stuff, but like also you have to realize that you're human, that you have to set realistic goals and expectations. They don't call them SMART goals for nothing,
I was going to say, I was going back to like my foundations of college class where I literally learned about SMART goals, and I was like, I still use it today. Like, I truly do. Like, it is very applicable for like, keeping yourself in check and making sure you're doing okay as like a human being. You're not a machine with your work. Like, it's important to keep a sense of like humility and just groundedness in all of it.
Right. And maybe, Shelby, you haven't exactly dealt with a whole lot of imposter syndrome in your career, but I mean, have there been any wins that maybe like you didn't fully celebrate? I mean, why do you think, from your perspective, why it's so hard for us to not give ourselves the credit?
I think so. First, I'll start with my win because it's a fun one and it's one for the team too. So recently we had AMA. It was in Vegas. It was great. And in Rollify did live podcasting, and it was so much fun. And but like it's crazy. It's fast paced. It doesn't stop moving, and I'm doing a lot of work at my computer. For like a straight couple days, or almost like kind of a week. It's just a week of these bonus episodes going out, and I'm proud to say we had 28. Shout out Kevin.
Woohoo.
We did great. We had 28 bonus episodes go out, so that was like my win. But like, we didn't really celebrate it a whole ton because we came back and we jumped right into Q4. We jumped right into literally everything else, planning for the rest of the year, planning for the next 6 months. Like, we were just so focused on what's coming next that I feel like we didn't really get to celebrate it a ton. And it's just like, there's no pause button in higher ed really ever. And I think that's a great saying. And so that's what I think that's what makes it so hard for professionals in the industry to give themselves the credit they deserve, is because we're constantly in the mindset of, this is my job, this is what I have to do. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to cross this off my checklist during the day. But like, I stopped and I thought, and I was like, hold on a second, like, I get to do this. Like, I get to do this every single day. Like, I'm grateful I get to do this every day. And it's such a gift to be able to do the work that we do and have such a big impact on the people that we serve and the listeners. Like, come on, we're cool. I feel like
cool.
we're for sure.
We are very cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're some of the coolest people I know, at least. And so having that confidence and reminding ourselves of the value that we bring is so important, especially in an industry that is like always go, 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 go. And it's easy to get caught up in like all the chaos and like forget how meaningful our work really is. And so taking a moment to step back and recognize the impact of what we're doing and what we're making and own that confidence, like, it's such a game changer. And that's like that's what helped me celebrate like the AMA win. I was like, wow, we did all of this. We connected with all of these people. All of these bonus episodes went out. We're expanding the network. Like, this is so fun and so cool. And so like, when you realize like how much you actually bring to the table, it doesn't just make you better at your job. It's makes the nonstop nature of higher ed feel like 10 times more rewarding.
Oh yeah, I am fully convinced that I have like one of the best jobs out there in higher ed. Like, I just enjoy what we get to do so much, and AMA is such a good example of a win. Our team like worked our butts off for that, and I'm just really like, we're a team of 4 and we put out so much content and we support each other, and it's just an awesome win to celebrate. And so I'm glad that you're recognizing to celebrate that win, because here's the thing with wins in higher ed, they're usually very slow burns. You roll out a strategy or you launch a campaign, and the results, they might not show up for months, weeks, sometimes years. I don't know. By the time the data finally rolls in, you're already knee deep in the next challenge, and it's like, oh, that thing I did 6 months ago, cool, it worked. Anyway, we're already
Moving
working
on.
on something way past that. And honestly, that's what makes it so tricky, especially in marketing. It's such a long game. We're always thinking about, with enrollment marketing, we're thinking about the next enrollment cycle. We're thinking about the next retention goal. We're thinking about the next trend we have to jump on. And we rarely stop to say, hey, this thing I worked really hard on, it made a difference, and that's worth celebrating. And I think, honestly, that's why we don't think about repurposing content a lot of times. We don't look at the data and say, okay, this, for example, this social post performed really well. Why did it perform really well? It's getting better impressions than our typical post is. Why is that? How can we replicate that? We don't stop to take the time, and we, as I mean like higher ed marketers, we don't stop to take the time to be able to really reflect on that so we can build upon those wins moving forward. And here's another layer to it. Higher ed is such a team-oriented space that sometimes I think we're hesitant to take the personal credit. We're so focused on a collective effort, and rightfully so, that we downplay our individual contributions for things. And it's the mindset of, oh, it's just like a part of my job. It's just what I do. The team made this happen. And that's true, but it's also okay to like totally acknowledge the role that you played in a win, because that's good for your self-confidence at the same time. We don't have to pause to celebrate even for a moment. If we don't do that, we risk losing sight of the progress that we're really making. And in higher ed, where sometimes wins can feel few and far between, keeping that perspective is everything. One of my recent favorite wins was when, we were talking about it a little bit last episode, when I pushed that new white paper. That was really cool. I've started also to get more in the strategic part of planning webinars. And so, when a webinar is successful, that is always a really fun win for me, and be like, wow, people actually came out to this. They found value in it. Or, even when a subscriber emails our Enrollify email and they say, hey, really appreciate the content, really love the content, thank you for being this resource. That is such a cool team win for us. And I just want to shout those things to the mountaintops because it's just so awesome.
Absolutely. Another thing off that was like the AI Engage Summit. Like that
Oh
was
yeah, good one.
nuts.
Yes, good
Like
one.
that was such a great win for us, for Enrollify, for Element. Like it was so cool. And like I got to be on a panel, which I had never done before. So like that was a personal like win for me. But like the whole thing, the amount of content we pushed out, who we had speaking, the amount of attendees, the amount of engagement and interaction that like came from that event, that was just, and it was so fun. Like it happened in like my first 6 months here, and I was like, it was just so cool, just so fun.
It was, and that was the first time that we had done the AI Engage Summit. So
Yeah.
to see it so successful was absolutely a rock star job by our team and everybody at Element. It was awesome. So the Shelby, to kind of wrap up our pulse check series here, which I am only tearing up a little bit just because
I
it's been
know.
such a good time. And, thank you to everybody out there who has listened and gave our pulse check a shot here. It's been really fun. Some last words. How do you remind yourself of your strengths when doubt starts to creep in? Is there a habit, or maybe is there a certain practice that really helps you stay grounded in those moments?
For me, I have to zoom out. And I mean this in two different ways. And you may be like, Shelby, what are you talking about? So hold on here. So just hang with me. So, first is step away from what you're doing for a second and remind yourself of like who you are. Like, you're just a human. You're on planet Earth. You're doing your work. We're all humans. We have flaws. We all have moments of doubt. And so I think it's important to remind yourself that you're not alone in feeling this way. Like, higher ed professionals feel this way. People feel this way. Like we all can get in, like we all have doubt. It's all something that happens. And so the second thing I mean by that is second, zoom out and look back and think about all of the amazing things you've done. Think about how amazing you are and think about like all that you have accomplished. So little side story here. Again, I teach dance. And so I've been doing it since I was 14 years old. So it's been a while. But over the years, I've gotten all of these notes and like cards and coloring pages that have my name spelled wrong. It doesn't matter. But all of these notes from my students, I saved them all and I have saved them for years. And so when the doubt creeps in, whether it's about teaching dance or whether it's about being a marketing professional or just being human, I go back and I look at those notes because they remind me of how many lives I've touched and the good I've done. And it's such a powerful reminder that all the hard moments I have, it makes it all worth it. And I think no matter what field you're in, you should do this. If you work in healthcare, do it. If you work fixing cars, do it. Like no matter what field you're in, you should have some sort of little joy bubble or good moment. And so I think save the good stuff, save the compliments, save the wins, and save the success stories. So then when you start doubting yourself and your abilities, you have something like physical. It doesn't even have to be physical. It could be like in your emails, but you have something to look back on, and it's just a little archive of proof that you are doing amazing things, even if you don't feel like it sometimes. And I know, Erin, you do the same thing that I do, just a little bit of a different version.
I think on the hard days, I am really grateful that I do that on my good days. Because there are some days where you're not feeling it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're down on yourself. Everything seems to be not going well in a day. We all have those bad days, and when you have that piece of tangible encouragement, I think it really does put you back in a better spot. I know I said earlier that it is important to be your biggest advocate, but realistically, there are some days where you just don't have the energy to do it. Going back, we're all human. We all only have a certain amount of energy that we can sustain and give. And so, in those moments, I think is when it's really important to surround yourself with people and a community and a team that really supports you and knows what you are capable of, that can take the time to encourage you. And if you have a mess up, you say, hey, let's do better next time. It's just one thing, or, hey, I'm going to cover you doing this. I know that you're kind of off today, or, even if you have an employer that that gives you that opportunity, you're not having a good mental health day, say, take the afternoon. You have that paid time off. If you have an employer that prioritizes mental health, do not take that for granted. That is absolutely a game changer. What helps me stay grounded is to go back to my roots. And I mean the people at work, but then I also mean people in my personal lives as well, because they give you two types of support that you need. But the three other people behind this network, they live and breathe the Enrollify brand. They live and breathe higher ed. They are some of the most genuine people I have ever met, and some of the most approachable people I have ever met. Whether this is your first time listening, or you're, someone who's been listening for a while, I just want you to know that you are in good hands here, that you have a community of people who want to see you grow, who want the best for higher ed, and wants to give you the resources to do that. This community is what it is because we have higher ed professionals like you that are helping us build it, and I sincerely hope that you know how much that we appreciate and love you being a part of our network. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
That was such like a fabulous way to wrap this series up. Erin, I've had so much fun with you. I mean, this is not goodbye for us because we'll still see each other in meetings and everything.
Woo-hoo.
But yeah, it's been amazing.
It's been great. Thank you, everybody, so much. Hopefully, this, Shelby and I will be back on the mic sometime. Hopefully, we didn't do bad enough to get us kicked off the network. But thank you all so much for listening, and we'll catch you around.
See you, everybody.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.